So, hello and welcome to another episode of the Data Dialogues podcast. Today, we are chatting about unexpected things people have found while moving into a new house. I am your host, Larisa Bedgood. I am head of marketing at PGM. And with me today is Michelle Taves, who is VP and Group GM of Data and Marketing. So, welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Larissa. I'm so happy to be here. I always have a good time with these conversations.
Yeah, and let's see what we're diving into today. Speaking of, it is moving. And I remember moving probably the last time was about 5 years ago to the house I'm in right now. And so, think about it, Michelle. You know the feeling when you're moving into a new place, you're super excited. You're imagining where you're going to put everything, what new furniture you might buy. But there's also that little part of you that kind of wonders, maybe who lived here before me? What was their life like? What were they doing? Or how did they use the house? Because that is what we're going to be exploring in this episode. People leave behind some crazy things when they move out of homes. And I actually, as I was looking into this, I had stumbled across this thread on Google about just this. And I literally was like shocked at some of the things that people left behind. Some of them were very sweet and, things that you'd love to find in a house, like maybe money. Others, not quite so much. So let's talk about it on our podcast, because that is one of the things that we do here at PGM. We have a ton of mover data. We're very invested in mover marketing, and several of the companies that we work with use a lot of mover marketing and provide direct mail pieces and so forth. But let's talk about the fun side of moving, because homes don't just hold on to furniture, they really hold on to our stories. So let's dig in. All right, Michelle, let's take it away.
Okay, so we're going to start out having a little bit of fun here. So I don't know about you, but sometimes I think that the weird stuff is really cool to kind of concentrate on. And so the first story that we're going to talk about, Larissa, is actually very sweet. A family moves into their new home. Their son finds a note from the child who lived there before. The note welcomed him to the room and asked the new occupant to take care of the rose bush in the yard. Oh, I thought this was a very cute story and it made me smile. But I think that that's just such a really sweet story. And it reminds you that not only did somebody move into the house, but somebody moved out of the house who lived there, and it was their home, and they feel protected in that environment, and they felt a sense of connection. And so I just think that's really sweet. I've never once thought about writing a letter to the family.
Well, and it actually goes to, a lot about what we talk about at PGM is that it's not just, you're not just marketing to people, you're really marketing to the home. Like the home itself has its own story. And when you hear about cute little stories like this, it really reminds you that, yes, the home is like an extension of us, that it's very important, to the human story. And when you market in a way that takes that into account, it is so much more impactful.
Yeah. Well, it's almost the one true place that you could be 100% authentic, right?
Yes.
You don't have to worry about what people think. You don't have to worry about any of that. Like, you can just be yourself, and you can have those private, intimate moments with you and your family. I even think about like my home. I moved here probably about 6 years ago, and it was really important for me to understand, how do I want to decorate it? What do I want it to look like when people come and visit me, my friends and my family that don't live with me? Does then my home represent who I am, and does it make them feel comfortable too? And there's just so much that goes into when you move. It truly is probably the biggest expenditure that most people are going to have in their lives. And so it's just so meaningful. And I think that for us at Porch and Mover Marketing, that's why we make such a big deal out of it, right? Like, we have a lot of data. We have a lot of solutions. We know just so much about how to be able to do a great campaign for people based on what they're looking for. But when someone is in that move, it's just such a stressful time for them. I don't know about you, but I feel excited that we can make that just a little bit easier by helping them to get their needs met, help them to really set that home up, get it decorated, so that it does feel like it's a home to them and it's really special.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking of decorating your home and getting all those fun things in your home, here's another little story about a mover who found $1,200 tucked above a closet door while they were painting. So think of all the home improvement things you're doing. You're picking out your new colors for your office or your room and, painting above the door, and there's $1,200. So that is like, the ultimate way to do a home improvement and get a bonus for doing it.
You got to kind of wonder, did somebody just have $1,200 tucked and they're like, oh, I'm just going to put it in the closet door, and then you walk away and forget about it? Like, I don't know. That's kind of interesting. Or maybe it was their secret stash. I don't know. I think there's a bigger story there to that, Larisa.
I do too.
So the next story is about a couple who found a crazy glass bowl in the kitchen. Nothing fancy. They just threw fruit in it. That would be me. Like, I am not a collectible kind of person. I would just be like, oh, how can I use this? Months later, they were at an antique fair, and they realized that bowl was actually worth $800.
Wow, that is amazing. Same. If I throw fruit in a bowl, unfortunately for me, it usually doesn't always get eaten. So I, on the other hand, would have an $800 crystal bowl full of rotten fruit.
Good thing it was
exactly.
crystal.
Easy to clean. I hear. All right, so here's another one. Okay, this little story. Someone was cleaning out their basement, and they picked up this wooden box that felt super heavy. And when they opened it, there was this giant homemade electromagnet. So I don't really know how someone would go about making a homemade electromagnet, but there it was. And next to it were thousands of blank dice. So I kind of have a feeling I know where this one's going. So apparently the guy who lived there before used it to make loaded dice in the 60s. And his work, quote unquote, he was a traveling gambler. So
interesting. Yeah. I have never met a traveling gambler. So yeah, super fun. Another story was about someone who they opened up their furnace closet and found a tiny skeleton dressed like, yes, a monk. Who does that? That must have been a prank. They were getting ready for the new people moving in, and they must have had this idea of what can we do to really kind of throw them off. The skeleton was fully robed, tiny hands, like the entire thing. Yeah, fun. I guess somebody had a real fun sense of humor.
Well, and I know when I have opened up my furnace or, HVAC area, it gets expensive. So, maybe they were just looking to, keep that space, fully cleansed and full of positive energy.
With the skeleton? Oh, well, it was a monk. I get it. I get your thought process now. Yeah, it was a monk skeleton.
If it was a skeleton, I think, that's a whole different type of energy. Okay, so this next one is kind of cool. I think there's more money involved in this one. So for this one, a couple had just moved in, and their kitten actually got stuck behind a piece of drywall underneath the stairs. So, okay, maybe I wouldn't have wanted that to happen. But when they pulled the drywall off to rescue their kitten, they found $10,000 worth of silver and old coins. That is where people, people are just leaving all sorts of money in homes. I think I need to look closely behind, my vents and things.
Well, and I think a lot of it is it depends on how old the house is that you're buying. But if you remember back in the day, people didn't necessarily trust the banking system, and so they kept cash in the mattress, right? Hid a bunch of stuff in the attic, right, for that rainy day.
Right.
I mean, especially when somebody lived through the Depression. Like they really just wanted their stuff and their collectibles around them, but they wanted to make sure it was in a hard place to find. And then think of it, 20, 30 years passes by, they forget, right? Forget that they
Right.
had it there, forget that they put it there. And then when you're moving, we talk about this all the time, you're like super stressed, right? You're trying to get into your new place, you're trying to get all your stuff packed up. It's one of the most stressful times, they say, in somebody's life, is that move time. I guess that you're forgetting about the stuff that's hidden behind the drywall, right? Like you're just kind of like getting the stuff that's seen. That's really interesting. I have another one for you, Larissa. Someone found a shoebox in the attic. Once again, hiding something in the attic with army patches, little cape seats, old buttons, letters, and they actually tracked down the guy it belonged to. He showed up in his 60s and he was grateful to be able to get it back. That's really sweet. Like, could you imagine how much some of those collectible things probably meant to him? Yeah.
Yeah, and here's another story, kind of like the same type of thing. A family who bought a house found years of old love letters, and it was from, actually, it was from an affair the previous owner had.
Oh
They
man.
had to, yeah, they had to give them back to the family, and I guess it's like, hey, we just moved in, we found your drama. I don't know. I guess it's just.
I think I would have kept that to myself, and
I think so too.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have given it back to the family if I had an idea that it was not appropriate.
No, it's just leave it hidden.
Yeah, maybe it was meant to be stuck up there.
Yeah.
So, when you have homes, sometimes they come with a little bit more personality. I don't know how you get more personality than that, but let's dive in and find out. Someone found a zigzag tunnel leading to a bomb shelter built under a pond. It even had a skylight for natural light. Well, that was awesome that they created the skylight for natural light. But just really interesting. Of all the tunnels you could build, why would you build a zigzag tunnel? Like, I'm a straight and arrow kind of gal. I'm thinking straight and arrow from A to B. It's quicker, it's easier. Can you imagine the extra digging you had to do to be able to create a zigzag tunnel? Just doesn't seem worth all the work.
Like, okay, I've gone 10 feet, time to zigzag. Let's just add on another, Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then
here's
a bomb
another one.
under a pond. I just got to point out, like, I'm not so sure that's really the smartest place to put your bomb shelter. Like, I'm just going to call it out. Like, of all places, oh, there's a pond. Larissa, let's go put it there.
I have a feeling that the internet lied to us on this little story. We have to do some fact checking. I feel like this one might have been like stretched a little. It's a tall tale. Like, I feel it was really just a little room that was like, a bomb shelter with an unfinished ceiling, and they called it like a skylight. But you know what?
Well, yeah, because then the skylight, what are you seeing? Like the dirt from the pond? Like. I think we took this one as far as we could take it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. This one, I don't know if they were digging a bomb shelter through a zigzag tunnel, but this person actually found dinosaur bones. And but this one does seem true. The museum confirmed it. The dinosaur was called a hadrosaur, and the bones were roughly 68 million years old. So I guess you could say, ha ha ha, that was a very prehistoric resident.
I can't believe you said that out loud, but I'm just going to let you go. I'm going to go on to the next one. I actually love that one. I think that's really interesting because you just never know what the world was like before we were here. And I so think it's cool when there's other, like, true proof of evidence of what was on here before our houses existed and our roads existed. So I actually think that one's very cool. Okay, and yet another person was renovating a school building and discovered a fully furnished apartment hidden behind a wall. In the early 1900s, it was like a caretaker apartment with a whole coal stove and everything, just sitting there completely untouched. you got to wonder when they like originally built the school building, right? That now they're renovating. How did they not notice that there was a completely furnished apartment? And it's almost a little scary. Like, who was living in that behind and how long were they there? Like, there's just a lot there that we got to
Exactly.
unpack.
Yeah, that actually reminds me. So we have one of our products that Michelle and I actually are doing a webinar on, or have done several webinars on. Is called Home Factors, and that talks about different features in the home, for example, and conditions of things. So, for example, windows that may be in need of repair, or the type of piping or condition of piping. But I don't think we have home factors that talk about hidden rooms in any home.
I wonder what the insurance risk for that would be.
Exactly.
Interesting.
All right, so those were some pretty fun stories. I know there's like a ton more directions that we can take it in. I remember, Michelle, you and I doing a previous similar episode at one point about somebody had actually discovered somebody living in their home and different things. We'll have to dig up that episode at some point. But the thing that's really cool about all these stories, it shows you not only the people and the lives that they've had in these homes, and it just really brings back to mind how it's a story. You know, the home is a story, and people have stories, and tying it all back to marketing and what we do here at PGM, you know, and the data that we have, the data talks about who these people are, and you want to relate to them in a way that talks to their story. Like, did they just move? Did they just have a baby? Are they downsizing a home? And it's all those data insights that when you use them in a way to talk to the story behind the person, that's what makes people pay attention.
Yeah, I like how you talk about it a lot, Larissa, because, you know, sometimes I think of what we do and the value that our company provides, right? We provide a lot of data that provides a ton of information about a property, right? Property characteristics, what the inside of the home looks like, if there's any type of risk in the inside of the home for like your insurance, also for home improvement needs, what type of projects can be done, right? And you think about some of that, and we really try and tie it together to not just about the home, you know, calling it Home Factors, but we also are rolling out a new branding for our consumer file that's all about people factors, right? And it's really not knowing just what the home looks like and all those characteristics, but it's understanding the people that live inside that home, right? And what do they like? What is their family like? What is their everyday life like? And as marketers, how can we help make that life for them better, right? How can we help provide them services that make their life easier? How can we help them find things that give them a little extra enjoyment? You know, whether it's decorating their house in some certain way, or whether it's helping them to find entertainment around their new place, whatever that looks like, right? It's really all about the people. And the people are really the most important, because without the people, it would just be an empty home.
Yes, I love that. That is such a great way to put it. It's, you know, truly, you know, like a move isn't just an address change. A person is more than a profile. It's how it all comes together, and how brands use data. Yes, you know, you need data to, you know, we always say reach the right person at the right time at the right place, but it really goes beyond that, you know, what you just said, and how it's really about connecting to people. And I think that's the most important thing for marketers. You know, yes, use the data, but use it in a way that you're reaching people in a way that feels personalized and understands who they are, what they may need, and it's adding value. You know, marketing should add value, not just an interruption. You know, like, hey, here's an email. No, like, how can you provide value in their everyday lives? And I think, you know, this exactly with this podcast, it was super fun too to see the stories and how, there's a lot more to a home than just the structure itself. So with that, thank you all for listening. That was super fun, Michelle. And until next time, let's keep it curious, keep it playful, and of course, stay data driven. Thank you all.